x100t, x100f, x100v. I only ever needed one camera and was satisfied. One focal length, one camera that you knew and mastered, that was it. But then, infected by the consumption of certain YouTube channels, I thought that you need several focal lengths, that only full-frame cameras could take really good photos, and that film photography is the real thing. And so on. So I spent way too much for camera gear I love to use from time to time, but don't really need. Today I'm sitting here and have to tell you there's only one for me. Why the Fuji x100v has been my absolute favorite camera for street photography for almost 5 years and is superior to other cameras, including the X100 Mark VI in my opinion. That is what this video is all about. And if you don't want to spend so much money on an X100v or the currently unavailable Mark VI, there's also a solution for 99% of all street photography situations. But first, let's get back 4 months to April this year. Do you remember when Fujifilm announced the new Fuji X100 Mark VI will now be produced in China, not in Japan? Everyone thought, hey, now they probably have enough production capacity and the camera will be available for release. But no, of course this hope was not fulfilled. The camera has not been available for months, but this is probably part of a new marketing strategy, as the CEO of Fujifilm himself admits. Read this. So now Fuji wants to be like Leica and artificially reduces the production of the cameras. But you know what? Don't get involved in this game. Sure, there are other manufacturers who also offer great cameras, but Fujifilm cameras still offer the maximum fun, especially when it comes to cameras for street photography at the best price, despite the recent price increases. But there is something to consider. You don't need the latest model. The prices for the Fuji X100v have gone up again due to the shortage of the Mark VI, but at least it's available to buy. Why do I think the X100v is the better camera compared to the Mark VI? Compared to its predecessor, the Mark VI has 40 instead of 24 megapixels. In my opinion, this is completely unnecessary for most of us. Sure, you can print extremely large prints with it and crop like crazy, but the question is whether you'll ever need that in everyday street photography. When I was still shooting with the X100T with 16 megapixels, I had large prints printed that were 2 to 3 meters in size. These were scaled up little by the lab, yes, but that was no problem even 7 or 8 years ago. And today, with the help of AI, it is possible to upscale even relatively small photos with little to no loss if necessary. But even regarding large prints for exhibitions, for example, the 24 megapixels of the X100v are completely sufficient. The problem with the 40 megapixels of the X106 is that the sensor is still the same size. In other words, more pixels on the same surface area. With the Fuji X100v, photos slowly become slightly blurred again from aperture 8 on. With the X100 Mark VI, this is already the case from aperture 6.3. So more megapixels at certain apertures can have a negative impact on image quality. And larger photos naturally take up more memory space, which is unnecessary overall. Otherwise, the Fuji X106 is of course a great camera, especially the new optical image stabilizer is a huge plus in low light situations. But as Confucius said so beautifully, an available camera with fewer features is better than a non-available camera with many features. So why is the Fuji X100 series, and by that I also mean the predecessor models of the X100v, still the best product on the market when it comes to street photography? One reason that is very important to me is the high quality workmanship and therefore the robustness of the camera. I usually just throw my camera into the bag or rucksack I have with me without any additional protection. Sometimes it just has to be quick. Regarding this matter, I would have reservations about both the Ricoh GR3 due to its rather plasticky finish and the Leica Q3 due to the price and the anxiety of having to pay to like around 1,000 euros to repair a scratch on my screen. Compared to other camera companies, the fantastic film simulations are of course a huge advantage, a simultaneous gain in quality and a time saver if you don't have to edit RAW files. A big innovation with the Fuji X100v was the flippy screen. Of course, sometimes it's quite helpful, but on the whole I wouldn't miss it. I tend to frame a little more carelessly with a flippy screen, whereas I feel I can compose much better with a viewfinder and at the same time create a small psychological barrier between me and the people I am photographing, which can be quite helpful with candid photos on the street. You're usually not approached by strangers on the street and at the same time you feel more confident. At least that's my experience. So if you don't need a flippy screen on your camera, the X100T or X100F will do it. You can get both for around $1,000 or euros, and I promise you that you won't miss anything in 99% of situations on the street. Be sure to check out this video on the subject as well. See you there.